Houston, and I'm here to talk about a collaborative project between my organization and Houston Community College. My partner for this project is Parrish Conley, and she couldn't be here today, but she is a philosophy professor there, and she's also director of the philosophy program. So we are co-hosting a 3-day conference called Revolution, Scholars and Artists Rethinking Political Action. And it will be at Houston Community College's main campus downtown, and it's from April 9th to 11th, 2020. So you're all invited. Before I give you details on the conference, I want to tell you why I'm so passionate about this project. And I have a very diverse background, so I have a sort of a theory and writing and art background myself, so we're going to kind of move within those spaces, so just come along with me. So first, one of the reasons I'm passionate about this is that I love Hannah Arendt. Does anyone read Hannah Arendt? Oh, she's the best, right? Okay, so the theoretical underpinning of this project is rooted in her articulation of public space and action found in the human condition. So there, Arendt tells us that the public sphere is a dynamic and ever-changing space where the miraculous and the limitless can occur. And there's a quote that I included here. Oh, I love it. Okay. The fact that man is capable of action means that the unexpected can be expected from him, and that he is able to perform what is infinitely improbable. But action has a very specific meaning for Arendt. Action is a combination of words and deeds. So it's through the combination of words and deeds that we as individuals confirm our place in the world, we affirm the importance of others, and we have the opportunity to instigate political action. So it's Arendt's reliance on this combination of words and deeds that we're sort of rooting our project. So we're going to kind of set the theory aside for a second, and I'm going to tell you that I'm very passionate about performance art. I am also simultaneously completely confused and bewildered by it most of the time. But to be clear, not all performance art is about people getting naked and like drenching themselves in menstrual blood and doing all sorts of violent things. They don't all do that. That's what everyone covers. But there are some artists that are creating profound experiences that connect diverse communities and diverse points of view. And so I'm going to give you an example. The first is the work of Guatemalan artist Regina Jose Galindo. She was a resident artist at Art Pace, which is in San Antonio. This was 10 years ago. She wanted to respond. I have a picture, actually. Oh, no, that's the picture. All right. She wanted to respond, excuse me, to the privatization of correctional facilities. So she rented a jail cell exactly like the ones that are used to house immigrant families on the border, and her family lived inside that cell for a few weeks. And after the residency was complete, the cell stayed on display. And so here is why I think that this work is powerful. Visiting Art Pace and viewing Galindo and her family in that cell, it left nothing to the imagination. And as a spectator, you were forced to see them and in turn imagine what it would be like if you were in that cell yourself, you were trapped with your children and your spouse or significant other. Those types of performances can be transformative and they can instigate conversations. So if we're thinking about art and its ability to sort of move us, seeing a photo of a prison cell, seeing a person in it, so seeing a photo of a prison cell, seeing a person in a cell, and then or seeing a picture of a person in a cell, and then seeing someone who is living in it. I didn't do that very articulately, but there's a difference between seeing a picture of it, seeing the cell by itself, and then see people in it, right? It's a totally different experience. It's an embodied experience that those other works of art can't account for. So after studying and attending performances like these, all I could think about was, what can I do to encourage and support artists who are trying to create actions that have the capability to build empathy through shared experiences, one whose work are clearly activist and have some kind of political goal in mind. And I encountered a problem though, which is that most artists don't want to be considered political. And this is puzzling for me, right? Because Galindo's work is, to me, clearly political and activist. It's providing education about a public policy issue, and it's publicly dissenting. And from a theoretical point of view, which I won't go into here, but you can ask me later about, a strong case can be made that her work echoes Jose Ortega y Gasset. Yet, in interview after interview, Galindo rejects that her work is political and refuses to couch it in those terms. So why is that? why do artists not want to be considered formal political actors? And I think the answer is this. They are looking to create experiences that reflect their circumstances, but they want those experiences to live outside a system that they feel does not represent them and that they have no access to. One where their work has some freedom, and the art world provides that. But why are works like this not being embraced and cultivated more broadly by civic organizations? Why must they live within art? Because then they get lost in these magazines and gallery openings and all this stuff, so it becomes very fetishized to some extent. But it's like glamorous, and so it's a thing that we go to, it's not a thing that we think about. So shouldn't it be, going back to Galinda's example, shouldn't it be almost imperative that decision makers in this area, legislators and voters like us, shouldn't they experience a cell that families are being held inside if they're like thinking about it and making decisions about it? No amount of news reporting and research can function in the same way that Galinda's work does. So that's to say, there are many artists who are deeply concerned with the polis, that public space that we all share. Because of their concern, they're creating radical experiences where new forms of conversation and new communities are expressed. And they just don't see that they can do that at City Hall or through public protests anymore. And I guess more broadly, I think this reflects a general longing that people have right now, that people want to engage with others and they want to talk about important issues in their community without the animosity and polarization of our political environment. And that's something that we've been talking about, right? So they take conversations about the polis outside of the polis. They move it someplace else that can be flexible, that can be more flexible and accommodate them. So I contend that because artists are not comfortable with Arendt's wording, right? They don't want to have to use the words that political engagement is supposed to use, but because wording is half of political action, performance art maintains an identity that is confusing and ambiguous. But I'm here to tell you that art is changing. It's not just painting and sculpture and photography, and politics is changing too. So if we all want to remain relevant, we have to be flexible and embrace that kind of change. And of course, that's why we're all here today, right? I have to commend my hometown though, because Houston has been increasingly supportive of artists who are doing this type of work. And a local artist, a friend of mine, Henry Sanchez, was given funding for participatory work where he took a what's the word I'm looking for? He took a container, a shipping container, and put it on the side of Buffalo Bayou. He invited people to sort of walk around and pick up flowers and sticks and stuff like that. He put them under microscopes and enlarged them so that people could create abstract or some sort of work of art about it. And he also had historians and naturalists take people on a boat ride down the bayou. So you had this intimate experience with the environment. You took a boat ride and then you saw all the glorious industrial facilities that are down the bayou, right? All this beautiful stuff that we have done with our environment. And there were some people, when I went, there was a coyote, right, that they saw on the side of the thing. And my family's from the country. And some of these people had never seen certain birds or this coyote. And it was family friendly, so people could take their kids there. So what I'm saying is that civic organizations they're not dismissing art entirely, but it certainly doesn't get the visibility and funding it needs to be truly effective. And these examples that Tina talked about, I'm sure these initiatives are also not getting nearly enough funding that they need. So now we're going to put that aside, we're going to shift gears, and I'm going to talk about Parrish since she can't speak on behalf of herself. Parrish is deeply committed to public philosophy. She truly believes that philosophical and political thinking should exist and flourish and be destroyed and be rebuilt in a pluralistic, not just an academic world. I'd like to say that Parrish is my revolutionary friend. So she's created a series of events called Philosophical Drinking. So we meet in a pub, someone who their credentials are not given gets up and talks for 20 minutes about a topic. Doesn't have to be the social contract or anything like that. But people talk about language and veganism. Should we colonize Mars? All these sorts of things. They're allowed to talk 20 minutes, no fancy philosophy words. If you use a fancy philosophy word, Parrish will zing you and shut you down. No weird, well, have you read that book that was published 2 days ago and has that perfect case study for what you're trying to say? There's none of that either, right? So 20 minutes, and then it's opened up for conversation. And what we found is that normal people like philosophy when they don't have to be in class and they don't get told, this is an epistemological approach to they don't they want to talk, they want to engage, but they want to feel like they can do that. So what we realized is that Parrish and I had this Arendtian problem on our hands, to take it back to theory some. We knew that in order for artists to be taken more seriously as political actors, they needed to word better. And if scholars wanted their ideas to reverberate in the world, they needed to deed better, whether they explicitly knew it or not. A lot of people here have been saying that. I was like, we're scientists or we're researchers and we want to get in the world. So I'm telling you, this is something that you can do to get out into the world. So this idea is the genesis of our conference, what Arendt would call the infinitely impossible. So this is our conference schedule, which is very exciting. So we are bringing together artists and scholars to participate in paper presentations and art workshops, all considering what does and what can political action look like. How can we make it more inclusive? How can we make it more effective? We are bringing people out of their silos. We are creating an interdisciplinary space where people can flex the muscles they have and build the muscles that they don't. But we have some ground rules. So participants are required to engage in all of the components of the conference, including the scholarly presentations and the art performances. So if you're a scholar, you have to go to the art making stuff, and it could either be a talk and a performance or someone who creates a participatory act. You have to do both. But in order to make that work, we're requiring the scholars to give their papers in a way that doesn't use a whole bunch of fancy words, right? We can talk about things that are complicated and important and meaningful in a way that everyone can understand. And so, much to the chagrin of my artists, they're like, can't I just perform for everyone at this conference? I'm like, no, you actually don't get to do that because no one understands what you're doing. You're gonna have to talk about what you're doing and you're gonna do it. You're gonna word and deed just like everybody else, right? So I look at this as a completely lovely challenge because interspersed into all this, we are, you see here, we have performances. We have local artists who are going to be giving public performances that people can engage with. So all this interaction that you've had about talking about politics and seeing works of art, you're going to get to go and hang out and see stuff like that and talk about it with people, right? That's part of the conference. So we believe, excuse me, we believe that by bringing together a diverse group of people in this way, we can reconfigure how words and deeds, scholarship and practice can work together to create transformative political action. Furthermore, this conference supports the notion that a reframing of what constitutes the public sphere, politics, art, and dialogue is crucial to the health and future of democracy. We know that many people do not feel engaged with or adequately represented by existing political institutions or traditions, so we must rethink political action. That is to say, we all must word and deed a little bit better if we're going to make politics better. So before I close, I think I have a picture. Let's flip to that one. Okay. I want to tell you a little bit about my organization, because I get to do that. Experimental Action, we started out as a biennial festival, but we realized that a lot of the radical, really cool works that we do were really inaccessible, right? So people doing stuff, and we're like, I have no idea what that means, but I guess it looks cool. So what we've ended up, in many ways, done is that we start making works for other artists, and that's not what we want to do, right? We want to make works that a whole bunch of people want to see and engage with. So we decided to start the Engage section of Experimental Action, which I'm involved in, to create this conference and other programming elements that brings people together, where we sort of dispel the myth of what performance art is. We encourage people to participate in projects, and we just get more people involved. So artists are doing art for all types of people instead of highbrow, fancy people, right? So, in addition to our relationship, Experimental Actions coordination with Houston Community College, we're involving other institutions like the University of Houston, and we're still early in this process. We have some time. We're looking for other social justice organizations that want to participate, or anyone who wants to participate. We're open to that. And we're also pleased that Houston Arts Alliance, which is an organization that works within the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, has awarded us a little grant, but we're still looking for more money, of course, like everyone else. So in summary, Parrish and I feel very strongly that this conference will be an inspiring few days. We get to facilitate conversations that could really make some amazing things happen in our community. The call for papers and presentations for the conference is already up. Oh, there are logos. Yay. Our resident artists that are going to be participating, they are with Performance Art Week in Venice, and I got to do a workshop with them, which was really fun. They actually talk about a rent, so it was a perfect match for us. So anyway, the call for papers is on Fill Papers or on experimentalaction.com. If you have questions about it, let me know. We encourage everyone from everywhere around the world, whatever discipline you are, please submit something, even if it doesn't seem like it fits exactly within our submission process. I can help you work through how to get that in, because it is blind review. I don't get to just choose my friends, which is unfortunate. And my contact information is actually not on the spreadsheet, so there it is, and I have cards, and we'll talk to anyone and give you my contact details. So, thank you.